Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 50 of Just Lying Around, a Detroit Lions podcast presented by the World of Football. I'm your host, Kyle Sutherland, and I am joined by my co host and brother in law, Adam Snow. It is the day after a good slap to the face, as some people would call it, by the Bills to the Lions. But, Adam, how you feeling after this loss?
I've heard a lot of people call it a wake up call, a reality check. There's a lot of different ways in terms people have been using to kind of cope with this loss. And let's just flat out say it from the get go: we got beat by the better team, and I'm sure we'll go through all the different things that the Lions did wrong. And I don't know, it stinks. It's been 11 weeks since we've lost, Kyle, so it's a little weird of a feeling, but um. I don't know. I don't know if you feel like the sky's falling with some of the news that's come out today. I'm not quite there yet, but man, it's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, the sky will be falling if they lose to the Bears this week.
Well, let's
I'm
not
gonna
even
get
speak
worried.
that into existence.
At today's show, we're going to go over the Lions' Week 15 loss against the Buffalo Bills. Then look ahead at Week 16 against the Chicago Bears. So we had Lions 42, Bills 48. Pretty much Bills dominated all three phases of this game, and as a result, we got some players out for the season, starters. So that didn't help. So before we get into that, let's talk some stats real quick. I think Jared Goff had a career day this game here, 38 of 59 for 494 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 carries, and 13 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 8 carries, 31 yards, 3.9 average per carry, 1 touchdown, and he had 5 receptions for 83 yards and 1 touchdown. Sam Laporta, 7 receptions for 111 yards, and I think there's another career day for Amon-Ra St. Brown, 14 receptions for 193 yards and 1 touchdown. Bill's side, Josh Allen, 23 of 34 for 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. James Cook, 14 carries, 105 yards, 7.5 average, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 28 yards. And Ty Johnson, some of you might remember him. Lions drafted him in 2019, I think. Got cut. But I had a fantastic day against the Lions here. He had 2 carries for 9 yards and 5 receptions for 114 yards. Total yards, Lions 521, Bills 559. So over 1,000 yards for both teams combined here. Time of possession, Lions 27 minutes 18 seconds. Bills 32 minutes and 42 seconds. So yeah, like I said in my preview podcast, it's going to be a shootout.
Uh oh, what's happening over there? I can't even hear you now.
Right. So anyways, like I was saying in my preview podcast, this is it's going to be a shootout game here. Um, Lions first 2 possessions in the game, punts, so that didn't help, and the Bills started off with a 14-point lead. So for the offensive side, pretty much that run game for the Lions was done with, and they had to have Jared Goff throw the ball. And last time this happened was the Bucks game, where they had Jared Goff throw a lot of passes, and they ended up losing that game. So I don't know if Ben Johnson at the beginning there he got too cute or overthinking things, but the first play of the game, he decided to throw it. Second play, run it. I think it was like a 2 or 3 yard gain. And I don't know. I felt like after that, you just gave up on the run. Um,
Well, so I wouldn't say they gave up. It's that Buffalo's defense, give them credit, they game plan to stop it. They did exactly what a team needs to do to beat the Lions, and that's stop their run, make the Lions a little one dimensional, and try to make the Lions beat you in the pass game. And that's essentially what happened. Gibbs and Montgomery out of the backfield were totally ineffective. Sure, they might have popped off a couple, but that was when Gibbs would pop to the outside. We'll talk more about Montgomery later, but I mean, they took that away from Detroit at first, and that was Detroit not coming out and kind of anticipating that's where they're going to hit us. Probably why you open up with a pass on that first drive, but you got to hit it. Their cornerbacks were banged up too. They could have capitalized on it. So I don't know that I think a big factor in this game is the fact that they couldn't get anything on those first two possessions. 5 plays, 3 yards. Like you can't
yeah.
play a Super Bowl caliber team like the Bills and come out flat like that. And if you do, your defense is going to have to come out and play. And that defense was clearly not ready to play a Josh Allen. They just weren't.
Yeah, so they only had 48 rushing yards for the whole game for the Lions, but yeah, I don't know if you want to talk more about this offense. I know Jameer or Amon-Ra St. Brown had a big game. Laporta had a big game, but I don't know if you want to count towards the end of the game if that was like garbage time yards or whatever. But
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, garbage time. I mean, to me, you know, I feel like the Bills were still playing pretty good. They were still getting some pressure on Goff, so it's not like I feel like they were taking it easy on Detroit. They weren't just rushing 3 guys and playing everybody back. I think they were still playing their typical game plan, and Detroit was able to kind of slice and dice them here and there. But that's not to say that maybe Buffalo did lax up a little bit. Maybe they didn't go full man to man. They definitely played some zone, and that opened up Amon-Ra and Laporta especially on a couple of good key plays. But I don't know. We figured Buffalo would be, I would say, an easy team to run on. We figured it'd be a high scoring game. Both these defenses weren't going to be perfect, but the difference maker came down to a decimated Lions defense, which never has not gotten good news since. Starting to make me feel like this team is dealing with a supernatural. Something's happened. Clearly, I don't know. We're gonna have to summon some sort of shaman, some sort of priest to put an anti-hex on this team because, good lord, the injuries just we joked about it the last couple weeks, and now it's just worse. It's getting worse every week, and you don't want to blame it completely on that, on a defense that's falling apart. It seems like, but we'll get to the defense. I think some blame does have to go a little bit of Aaron Glenn's way to an extent. I'm not saying fully, and for Ben Johnson, just I think he did about as good a job as he could. He was scheming up against Joe Barry, the offensive coordinator for the Bills. They were both just putting up incredible game plans. After the Lions got out of that rough first couple of drives, it was kind of back and forth from there.
yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm sure you want to talk about the some of the calls Dan Campbell made during the game, or one especially at some point. But I'll let you orchestrate that.
Well, yeah, we might as well talk about it right now. With 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Dan Campbell decided to go for a onside kick. Didn't work. Ended up Bills had short yard touchdown. I think we capitalized right away after that with another touchdown. So it's kind of like washed itself out. But do you? Let me ask you this: do you think Dan Campbell for the rest of the game should have went for onside kicks to try and steal that ball away?
I heard the argument that if you're going to go for that with 12 minutes left, why didn't you do that at 8 minutes left? Like the next drive, they kicked it right back to him. I don't know what changed in 4 minutes to give you confidence in that defense. I would have expected them to keep doing onside kicks. You got to steal the possession until your defense gets a turnover, or they miss a field goal again, or Josh Allen, they just punt it back to you. You got to steal a possession. And the Lions were playing catch up all game long. And to be truthful, they were down by 3 possessions going into that fourth quarter. So I'm not mad at that call. If it works, obviously you look like a genius. It didn't work, but I feel like there was different degrees of, okay, the likelihood is that this isn't going to work. But if they get the ball back, They get it right there at their 40-yard line. We try to stop them. We hold them to hopefully a long field goal at the worst, and they miss it. Like that's best case scenario for that Lions defense. Other than you get the ball back. The worst case scenario is they go down and score another touchdown, which fluky bounce, guy grabs it, almost runs it back for a touchdown. The only silver lining to that after the fact is, yeah, they got the touchdown, but it didn't take a lot of time off the clock. So that's your only benefit. But then you're still down by 3 scores. So I don't know. I'm not mad at the call. I probably would have done something similar to that, being that far down in the fourth quarter. I mean, my only surprise, I guess, is why didn't they do it again in 8 minutes when they kicked the ball back?
Yeah, because Hollins who caught that ball, he got really lucky. Like that other
Yep.
onside kick they did at like 12 seconds left in the game, like um, Detroit could have recovered it, but someone slid in there and knocked that ball right into Johnson, the quarterback's um, lap there. So I don't know. I think they got a recipe for success on those onside kicks. They just need to execute it more, I guess.
Well, I mean, you don't want it ever to come down to something like that. Like I don't know, but I in that situation where the percentage is very low to recover it. 12 minutes left. I get it. Trying to steal possession because they're marching down the field probably no matter what. So I'm more comfortable with the Lions playing the short field as opposed to the long field, especially the way they were playing yesterday. Like linebackers covering running backs did not help. That's why Ty Johnson gets 100 yards receiving during the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't hate the call. My other question then is: do you hate that Campbell didn't use a timeout? Tony Romo was screaming for them to call a timeout with about 2:20 left. But I personally, I think it was fine to let it run down to the 2-minute warning. To me, it's just they didn't push the ball down the field as quick as they needed to, because I feel like they could have still gotten in the end zone and not had 12 seconds left on the clock. They could have had a lot more time if they were to have gotten the onside kickback. But I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I felt like the last drive, like their game plan that they were wanting to do was good. Don't waste the timeouts early, but yeah, it seemed like that last drive for them kind of I don't know if they were obviously Dan Campbell and them were in a hurry, but I don't know if the offense on the field, if Jared Goff um, wasn't in the up tempo. I don't know if someone should have told them like, let's speed this up a little bit. We need to go. So I
It did
don't
seem
know.
like he was doing a lot of the checking out everything, and he was slicing. I thought he was dicing. He missed a
Yeah,
couple of passes. A couple of receivers dropped. There was one. What was it? Tim Patrick should have had another touchdown. I forget who. There was an end zone pass that got dropped. It's like that should have been right there.
oh yeah,
And we got 40 seconds left or so. I forget the exact amount of time. There's more time than 12 seconds left on the clock for the Lions to try and do something if they get the onside kickback, and then would have made it a lot more interesting because I thought Detroit would have had a real shot at that point. But look, at the end of the day, and we're going to get into defense, I think, next, but end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and dog the Bills. They did what they had to do. Josh Allen put up a heck of a performance. That's why he's probably going to be MVP. Deserves to be MVP. But for Detroit, I don't think Super Bowl aspirations are dead. It's a reality check. A little bit.
yeah. So let's get into defense here real quick. Front four. Again in the preview podcast, I said we got to contain Josh Allen. We can't let him run around because if he does run around, he's going to make a lot of miracle plays. In which this game it did happen. That front four could not contain Josh Allen. He escaped the pocket a lot, and he made big time throws or running the ball. Um, I don't know. I think they in the broadcasters, someone said that they had Jack Campbell kind of spying on Josh Allen, which led to the tight ends or the running back being free all the time. And I think it was Ezekiel Turner they had covering him, but he didn't do a good job. So they kind of switch roles there. Um, but the biggest thing for me is um, felt like they needed to send maybe more pressure Josh Allen's way, maybe an extra linebacker or a safety blitz. Um, But yeah, you can't let Josh Allen be free that amount of time because your cornerbacks are eventually going to get beat. Like they can't cover for 12 seconds. It's impossible. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I just this also comes down to so you got the bullet point coming up. Yeah, Aaron Glenn, he's stuck with his man coverage, and I think that's kind of what burned him. I get you want to trust your corners to make the plays, but at what point are you trusting backup linebackers to cover running backs? Like
yeah,
I don't care. Like that's a tough ask for a linebacker to begin with most of the time. Uh, and I just felt like why didn't we shift our philosophy a little bit? It seemed like there was no adjusting for the Lions. It was like they just kept doing the same thing. No pressure. There was no Zadarius Smith. I feel like was absent for most of this game. I feel like I heard he only got like 22 out of 47 snaps or something like that. Uh, it's something ridiculous. I'm like, why isn't he out there more? Is it a precautionary thing? Because the Lions know that they just keep getting guys hurt left and right. That's like, hey, the less we play guys, hopefully you know we can just keep them around longer. But I don't know. I don't know what to say. I just think Aaron Glenn's got to have to take this week and hopefully learn from this because he's not getting anybody back anytime soon. So you got to deal with what you got. You guys got to coach him up and you got to stop the bleeding. And if that means changing your scheme to accommodate for what tools you have in the toolbox, I say you got to do it.
yeah. It, they did have some news today. Iffy Melifanu, I think Gamble said he's going to open up his practice clock from IR this week, so might be able to play for the Chicago game. Ennis Rakestraw is not ready yet, so he's not off of IR. But yeah, other than that, that's basically who they're getting back. Maybe Nowoski's coming back for Chicago game. Um, so yeah, I don't know. You can't really do much with guys off the couch for the linebacker core, and just have Jack Campbell there trying to do everything. It's a hard ask for one person to do. Um, so yeah, notes from the game. We already talked about it. Bills basically punched the Lions in the face and said, um, "We're the better team." Which, if the Lions do make the Super Bowl, I think they're probably going to play the Bills again, the way the Bills are playing here recently. Um, so yeah, let's talk about it. 4 people hurt this game and are pretty much out for the season. Couple big names. Ali McNeil tore his ACL. He is done. It sounds like he's not going to return at the start of the season next year. He'll be returning midway through next year. So that's a really big loss for the Lions there. Khalil Dorsey, backup cornerback, broke his leg. So he's out for the season. He'll probably miss time next season as well. And the big news we just recently heard around 1 o'clock today. David Montgomery sounds like he tore his MCL, so he had surgery today. He is done for the season as well. And the last person, Carlton Davis, um, fractured his jaw in this game. They don't know if he's going to be able to return this season or not, but if he does return, it'll be for the Super Bowl game if they do get there. So 4 people out for the season from this game here, which sucks.
Yep, the hits just kept on coming today, man. I tell you what, I was already kind of coping with the loss. I was like, look, we lost the better team. It is what it is. Then you throw on top of it the injury news. I'm just it's deflating. The Montgomery one really hurt. But we'll have to wait and see how this Lions team responds and bounces back because they got 3 weeks left of the regular season. You still got to go out and play those games, and you got a playoff game at the least. So you got 4 games at the least you got to go compete in, and you're hoping to play in a couple more. So we'll have to just see how things roll out. I've never seen an injury list quite like what the 2024 Detroit Lions have accumulated. It is something out of just like somebody just built a practice facility on a Indian burial ground. It's Ford Field. built on top of some ancient shrine to some deity. I don't know, because man, I hate to say like this team is cursed, but there is some bad juju, you know, when it comes to these injuries.
Yeah, a lot of people, like everyone was saying, this is going to be the Lions' year. Lions' year. Like we're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to win a Super Bowl. But that was all before the season started, and then everyone started getting hurt. Even halfway through, like people are still saying, "Yeah, we're going to go to the Super Bowl." But now it's just waiting for the next game. Who's going to get hurt? I mean, that's what I feel like. Chicago game coming up. Who's going to get hurt? That game after that, who's going to get hurt? Like,
Hey, look, to me, look, it stinks, but it does change the mindset a little bit. Like, I'm not saying this team can't go win a Super Bowl. I mean, crazier things have happened. Clearly, look at their injury list. Crazy things happen, but it'll say something if this team could overcome that. And for how many weeks they've overcome it? They overcome an Aiden Hutchinson injury. They overcome, you know, so many other injuries that would plague any other team and ruin their season. And if this is the start of that, who knows? I don't. But I'll tell you what, Dan Campbell will have this team ready to fight no matter what or who's suiting up. So I will say I'm not sitting here going to say it's Super Bowl or bust now. Now it's 1 week. I guess you just got to change it a little bit, 1 week at a time. Play the next team in front of you, and we'll see what happens in a few weeks. And that's all we can do as fans. That's all we can do. And as a team, all you can do is play the next game in front of you. There's no sense in
yeah,
worrying about 4 or 5 weeks down the road now. Just focus on how do you get better with what you got.
yeah, we'll see. Other notes in the game. What do you think about that skipper touchdown there?
Loved it. Oh my God, what a long time coming that play has been, and what a time for Ben Johnson to finally dial that up. I mean, the bag of tricks is endless, but it was not. It was a nice moment. I was like, dang, I wish this would have been in a lead. You know, we had a lead and we pulled out something like this to kind of put the dagger in, but they just needed to do whatever they could to get get in that end zone, and that play was drawn up the right time.
Yeah.
But good for
And
Skip.
also, weird stat going out there. Goff throwing 5 interceptions for the Texans game and won that game, but Goff throwing for 5 touchdowns and lost this game. Um, what a
Yeah,
wild stat that is there.
it's like those finally balanced out. Like we're like, dang, how did we get away with 4 or 5 interceptions and getting a win? Well, here's the opposite end of that. We got the 5 touchdowns and didn't get the win, so it balanced out, I guess, in the end. But hey, I mean, what you could say is Goff. You know, you can't count Goff out. He's got that in him. So we've kind of seen his polar opposites. We've seen him have this type of game. We've seen him have that Texans type of game, and then we've seen how the team then can rally around a bad Goff performance and still get the win. And we've seen how the defense can really hinder a very good Goff performance. So
Yeah, so let's move on to week 16 preview. Lions versus Bears. Lions are 12-2 still. Still leading for the first um bye or whatever
yep,
and the
number one
NFC
seed.
side. But the Bears are facing the Vikings tonight. So we'll see how the Bears do. I know last week they kind of crapped the bed with their new coach there. So hopefully the Bears can pull it together and beat the Vikings tonight to help the Lions out. Because sounds like Philadelphia Eagles are just running wild right now.
I mean that race for the number one seed right now it's a 2-way tie. Detroit's got the tiebreaker though ahead of Philly, but I mean we knew this would happen. The Lions couldn't slip up, and now you got two teams at 12-2, Vikings at 11-2. So if the Vikings win this game, that's three teams there, all right there sniffing that number one seed. And Detroit's got to win out to keep a hold of it. And I mean, a Minnesota loss would be huge for the division too, give Detroit a little breathing room. But it's no mistake time now for Detroit, and it couldn't be at the worst time when your team is the most banged up it's been.
Yeah, there was a stat out last year or from last year. The number one seed for last year was 12-5, but now we got three teams probably staring down a 12-2 record coming up here shortly. So
Yeah,
yeah, NFC side they're on fire right now.
yeah. The NFC, man, it's a dogfight. I mean, nothing's set in stone. There's so many spots still up for grabs. I know the Vikings clinched a spot. Um, I can't think of who else. Is it just 3 teams in the NFC that have clinched?
After this week, I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out.
I wasn't sure if Green Bay clinched a spot either, but I don't know. We'll talk about that on the regular podcast. Check that out Tuesdays, everybody, between me and Randy this week in the world of football. But I don't know. With the Bears, though, look, we'll see how they play tonight. Definitely going to watch that with great interest. Going to be rooting for them. So don't let me down, Chicago. But we'll see what happens. The Vikings, they're going to be a tough out. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. So week 16 preview: Lions versus Bears. Bears coming off a short week here. It is at the Bears Stadium, December 22nd at 1 p.m. on Fox. A couple notes for me that I'd like to see. I want to see what this cornerback room looks like. I know I already talked about Rakestraw. Dan Campbell said Rakestraw is not ready yet. I'd like to see Mosley finally activated. I want to see him out there, see what he can do. I know there's talk also of like probably maybe moving Brian Branch around more to different spots instead of having him stay in the safety spot. Also, who's going to replace Ali McNeil there? Is it going to be O'Connor? Are they going to stick to the big guy? The other nose tackle. I forgot his name.
Crap. Yeah, we got a few guys up in there.
Yeah, they got a few options there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And the other note from me, I expect this offense to get it together, coming out red hot, and I want to see them steamroll the Bears after this loss to the Bills.
I think it'll be another ugly game. You're going to do your preview. We'll see what the injury report looks like. Who else is out for Detroit? Who's out for the Bears? I don't know. I expect another ugly game in Chicago. So as of right now, the weather's supposed to be like 25 degrees, maybe overcast. I don't think there's supposed to be any rain or wetness or anything. But it'll be cold. So not terrible conditions. We'll see. I would have said this is a game where Montgomery is going to just run the ball down their throat, but we're going to have to really lean on Gibbs and whoever they decide to make the number 2 back now. Is that going to be Vaki? Is that going to be Reynolds again? Both guys I think are capable of carrying a load, but
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see. Could Sonic and Knuckles have found their tails? Will they get a third running back in there to really, complement Gibbs? I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see how Ben Johnson adjusts this offense without a Montgomery. We saw it a little bit last year when Montgomery was out for a couple games, and it was still when they weren't really relying on Gibbs a whole lot. They were kind of going between him and Craig Reynolds. But now that Gibbs is where he's at, as one of the top backs in the league, you feel like they'd lean on him a little more. Definitely a lot of play action with him and get the screen game going. I think that's going to be their big strength playing Chicago.
Yeah. Also, this offensive line, they need a good bounce back game also because was the last 2 games for the offensive line it seemed like they were kind of behind schedule or not winning their assignments or whatever, opening up those big holes for Montgomery or Gibbs. So I'd like to see that also there.
Yeah, they got to flip the possession. The time of possession was huge. That was a factor this week that the Bills, held on to the ball longer. That was kind of we figured would be the recipe for beating Detroit. You got to keep the other team off the field, and I think the Lions got to do that with the Bears. You can't give Caleb Williams any life. That team is desperate. That team is dejected. They're going to try to cling on to anything. We'll see how they play tonight if they've lost that team or not. But they'll have a short week, and I'm sure they're going to be, depending on how this game goes tonight. We'll see how they're rearing to go against Detroit. Because I'm sure they want a little bit of revenge.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, you got anything else?
That should do it. I'm good.
All right, let's close it out here.
All right, sir. We hope you guys enjoyed listening or watching today's episode and come back for more. Be sure to visit the World of Football's website, www.theworldoffootball.com, for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. If you want to get in touch with us, send an email to info@theworldoffootball.com, or you can connect with us by either liking the World of Football on Facebook or following the World of Football's X account. Those links will be down in the description. Be sure to check out our flagship podcast, This Week in the World of Football, which drops new episodes every Tuesday. And you can find that in the podcast feed as well as on the YouTube channel. Again, links down in the description below. And also be sure to check out Kyle's preview episode later this week, previewing that Lions-Bears matchup. Kyle's been doing a pretty decent job at those episodes, if I do say so myself. Kyle, it makes it easier on me because I don't have to edit nothing. I just have to upload.
Yeah, so that's it for us this week. Lions are still 12-2. The sky is not falling yet, so don't freak out. Still got 3 more games. We still got a playoff game. This offense is pretty much intact besides Montgomery getting hurt, so I know it's going to turn into more of a shootout games instead of defense stepping up here. Um, so yeah, look out for the preview show coming out Friday for the Lions and the Bears. And remember, go Lions, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.